There's 6 things that you should watch out for as a P&C agent. If you're new to the industry or if you've been in the industry for a while, there's a few things that you should know about the industry and what to look out for, some things to be careful with, and some positives that you can look towards as well. The first thing that you've got to be very careful with is the shiny technology that's available. The industry is growing pretty massively with insurtech or technology that our agencies are available to, right? There's a cost to all of that, but there's always something new. There's always something different. And everybody has the different gimmicks or different tools. They're not gimmicks that could help benefit your agency. For example, there's software that can pull a declarations page. If you have a customer log into their policy, it loads all of their documents into your system so you can see it, quote it, you get the date of birth. If there's tickets, it reminds you later that tickets fell off, so now you can quote them later. That's a competitive advantage. There's 100 CRMs that can do different automations and workflows and different follow-ups for you that essentially do it. I think the problem that we find with those ones is they're not completely built. It's a build yourself type thing. And most of us agents or most agencies aren't tech friendly. They're just not that mind thinker. They're thinking of protection and what kind of income to what liability risks, maybe it's commercial, whatever that case is. We're thinking of the policies, not the technology that gets us in front of the people that have the policy. I've actually joined companies because they had that part kind of pre-built, but the parts that they built it wasn't the way I liked it anyway. So even when you find ones that you like, they may not necessarily be the best fit tech. Usually they either have one or the other. I'm actually creating one as well. I'll put a link in the description below once it's released if you guys are interested in learning more about that. But it's essentially coming out shortly that will have that insurance connection where it's built from someone that knows the industry and can automate the pieces that I would automate. And then you can change it any way you want so you can make it your own. So there's different platforms. You can go do your own, but it's a shiny piece. You don't have to have it. You will need to have it in the future. So if you're a new agent, don't start with it. Just focus on growth, focus on commitment, focus on leads, value, all of that. There's a lot more things that you should focus on than having the newest, latest, greatest software that can do X, Y, and Z unless it's free, right? You're going to spend $300 to $500 to $1,000 to even $2,000 a month on technology once you're up and running and you have a full agency. At that point, go ham. You've got enough time, you've got enough money, you can invest back into it, and that's when it plays a factor. But for now, be very careful with the technology because although it is helpful, some of the cheaper ones are just the route to take. The second piece, AI is a joke. To us, to our world right now, AI has almost no benefit. I get it. There's an AI out there that technically can talk to customers, pass the exam. So there is technically AI that's improving and getting better over time, but it's a benefit to us when we're researching things. The problem I've found in the past, and actually pretty much all the time, is it's almost never right. It pulls data from the internet, and the internet is half wrong, and then no one really, and the laws have changed, and all of these articles that are relevant today, and all of these things that the technology and the AI is pulling from are very limited. Now, if you take the time, once again, you got to have the time and energy and money to build your own back end that gives you all the data, then it's way more powerful if you're trying to make an informational piece that's beneficial, that's helpful. For those that are really trying to sell insurance, honestly, it's just connect with people, connect with customers, get more of them, connect with more of them, connect with more of them, do more quotes, and learn and be a better salesman, but better at explaining the policies, better at understanding the product that you have, more so than letting AI dictate what's next. Don't get me wrong, that's my world. I love AI and I love technology and I love CRMs. I'm building one. I love all of these things that connect, and I'm going to eventually have an AI one that can make dials for you. I'm actually going to have an AI trainer that will train your salespeople. I'm going to have the CRM that's built in that ties all of those together so that you only need the agent for when the customer is serious and ready to talk. We're going to build content around it. So there's a lot of things. Subscribe if you're interested in that kind of stuff and learning more of it. But for a new person starting off, it's just a shiny object that's going to take you months, if not years. And it's slowed down our agency because of some of the drive to go look at it and play with it and touch it. So be careful with that. Number 3, be careful. There's something called embedded insurance, and it's going to compete with us pretty heavily. Your car dealerships, your Walmarts, your wherever you can go anywhere that involves insurance. If you get on a yacht or a cruise, Look at Airbnbs right now. When you go rent Airbnb or a cabin somewhere, they're going to say, oh, do you need an extra insurance? Otherwise, you got to pay a larger down payment. And then you buy a $300 policy for the weekend. So you're getting insurance where you normally would go to an agent that is competing with that and taking that away from agencies. So much so that it doesn't even exist in agencies. At least no one I know actually sells it anymore because of Airbnb's having that. Uber, Lyft, they're starting to insure the cars, insure the drivers, insure all of it. And there's these technologies that are coming out that are influential in that space. So keep an eye out on what's called embedded insurance. That's going to be our competitor going for the future. I get they're going to be a technology that they go online and they can quote. And I know I've talked years and years ago about you get in your car, your Google car, and you hit log in and it just starts. Like it knows you have insurance, you pay the bill for the day. There's actually insurances that are starting to do that. There's a couple of them that will only pay per day. And so there's pieces that are changing the industry. Just be knowledgeable of it. It's not going to make a wave, at least anytime soon, even if it was perfect today. It's going to probably take a decade, if not 2 decades, for the consumer to come around. There's very few early adopters, as they say, that are going to jump on board and want to start that. Your younger age will, and that's that high risk person anyways. So at the end of the day, you're going to have a long wave of this coming in where you can research it and learn it, but be very careful of trying to jump ship to things like that because it's not necessarily going to take off right away. Also, part of the reason this channel exists is to talk about that type of stuff. We'll go more in depth on it as I learn about companies and I can share it with you guys, and we'll keep up to date with insurance stuff. But your insurance companies are what really control the market. So think of it this way. Yes, there's startups and insurtechs, and those guys are causing waves, but they're little ripples. I don't think companies are ignoring them because the ripples are there and they're just keeping like a side eye to them every once in a while. Your State Farms and your Progressives and all those guys, they're not really trying to build that technology to compete with that. They don't need to. If you look at some of these larger companies, they have these archaic software systems that you got to drop down. Yes. Are there any drivers? Oh, I can't, I got to hold up a piece of paper just to look at the line item that I'm on. And it's so just complicated, not from the knowledge standpoint, but just filling it out because there's so many questions. That'll start to get easier. But think of this, all of this technology and this AI, if you don't think they have that, they do. They've got it, and they might even be building their own, but they don't need to change it because the market hasn't necessarily changed as far as what people are willing to spend and what's the value for that technology. There's not yet a time where that's going to overpower your large companies. So let's just keep that in mind as you start thinking this and research this. I get excited when I see these companies. I'm like, oh, I should join that. I should do this. I should do that. And it's like bouncing all over the place will get you stuck and lost to where you'll never actually grow the book of business, which is your whole point and your goal, versus going a little bit faster than the next guy. Number 5, you're going to see climate change. Not that it's bad, and it has been bad, and it's gotten worse, and it's getting worse. And that's the reason California's most companies have pulled out of there. And it's the reason Florida's losing companies. And it's the reason Alabama's having such a high rate in Louisiana. And all of these states, they're all struggling with this part of it. Going back to what we just said, these insurance companies are aware of this. California is opening up to where they're allowing predictive models. So we just got to price it right. It's not that difficult once they get these things down. This is just one of the first years that this has happened, or technically the second going into the third year. It's gotten better as far as less weather, but it's also gotten better as far as allowing these companies to predict the future weather. And as that plays a factor, these problems that we're going through right now, these headaches that everybody's just, I'm losing commission, I'm losing companies, I don't have carriers, I'm not competitive, all of that will eventually level off. That's probably going to happen near the end of 24, going into 2025, and continuing into 2026. So you're going to see this trend that we've gone straight down because of partially weather, inflation, all of the things have affected us as far as insurance agents go. And I think we're hitting that bottom and starting to trend back to where these binding restrictions and these underwriting regulations are starting to pull off as these insurance companies invest in the technology to combat fake claims and fraud. They're getting better there. So they're making more money here. They're holding on to more money here. They're putting investments in here. And as the economy starts to shift, that's going to be a benefit to everybody. As long as they can predict the weather, at least semi-correctly, we're going to see the loss ratios drop. And that's a very huge positive thing for all insurance agents because it's going to open that market back up for us to compete. In 6 weeks, touched on it a little bit. It's insurtechs. Those are the, once again, ripples, but they can become waves. So again, we've got to be a little bit careful of them. I think it's Hugo is one of them, where it's the pay-as-you-go insurance. That one's got my eye. And then there's a couple companies that are doing like these done-for-you agencies. So you can create the demand in the leads and you can implement them into a company that will either pitch and sell for you. They'll start maintaining the book for you. They'll go out and hire the $6 an hour person off in a different country, and then they'll teach them and maintain it. So there's all of these things that allow us to buy back our time at a low cost. And there's these insurtechs that are starting to make it so they start attracting the customers and get the business. This isn't anything new. We've had companies like Root Insurance for the last probably, 8 years? You'll have to look at my Think Insurance channel because I did a video on them when they first started to become popular. And they're starting to see what most insurtechs are seeing is the insurance game is not an easy game to play. Handling insurance carriers, I've seen so many insurtechs come in the space, get a ton of investors, they put a ton of money into the market, they get a ton of clients, but they're still negative. And they're even so negative that they write any and every type of business, not quality and good business that they're used to, because they didn't necessarily focus on hiring that underwriter team or that product pricing team or whatever that case is. They didn't get the right team to teach the salespeople, this is what we do and this is what we don't want. So they really just went out there and grabbed as much as they could and then realized that there's a bunch of thorns in there. And those thorns are really hurting them, especially in the market that's in today. Some of them will emerge. They're on their 4th and 5th rounds of getting funds. So people are investing into these insurtechs. You got Lemonade that's, I don't know how much in debt, but they have a massive book of clients. You've got, like we said, Root Insurance that has that's very similar to Lemonade. Honestly, I think they're more on the outs than on the ins. I partnered with a company at one point and they just fell off the face of the earth because it was too expensive, the marketing and all that cost. Again, when you're an insurance agent, the main piece you've got to focus on for you is getting new clients in the door. You may not be competitive today. As we start going in the next few months, as you start finding carriers are opening up the doors that will be competitive, and you're starting to find that the quotes that you did in the past, now those other insurance companies have gone up, are now becoming more competitive, you're going to start getting more and more business coming back to you. I got a feeling there's going to be a pretty big wave of shopping here in the next 6 to 12 months. The part that you should focus on the most, if you are already trained and know what you're doing with the agency, is to do more of the self-marketing, whether it's social media marketing, whether it's buying leads, whether it's doing blog content, which is going to take some time. I'm actually making a video right now that will go over it. Once it's live, I'll link it here or I'll put it in the description below. If you are interested in learning more about the technology parts, I'll either make a playlist or join my waiting list for the CRM that I'm building. Essentially, I'm going to have kind of a rollout for people that you can use it for. More importantly, it's the growth that you need to focus on. Where are you in your journey with the agency, and how can you get to that next level? Maybe it's hiring a new employee, maybe it's doing more marketing. Whatever the case is, that growth is going to happen in the next few years. Let me know what your thoughts are. Did I miss something that's major, or is there a piece of technology that you feel is changing the industry? Put in the comments below. Always, I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you soon.